What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Real Raw Truth. We are all three here this week, and we have a guest with us today, which we are super excited to talk to you guys about. Before we get into that, we got to kind of go through our weeks, of course, and update you guys on everything. Last week, Jane and I talked about our preps, but Sammy, you have some exciting news, I know.
Yeah, so I just got a puppy. As Bret knows, I brought him to Glute Lab. He was a pretty good trooper. But he is a lot of work, but he's so cute. So, I mean,
What kind of
can't
puppy? So that if everyone
French.
has seen it.
I should grab him, but he's taking a nap right now. But yeah, he's a little Frenchie. He's blue. So his name is Blue as well.
Cute. He's so
I
cute. I
know.
love seeing all your pictures.
You're not
Yeah,
going to tell the best story
let's hear it.
about the dog.
You want to hear a story about the dog?
What happened to the dog this week?
Oh my God. I didn't even post it on my Instagram. I didn't even
Oh
tell you.
no.
Okay, this is actually awful. So I took him outside and around, like my apartment is nice, but around my apartment building, it's kind of like there's kind of a weird area. And so, anyways, it was raining outside, took him to like this grass patch that I normally don't take him to. And I didn't see him eat or do anything. So, anyways, we come back inside. He's acting like a crazy maniac. And I'm like, okay, he's just hyper. So then he falls asleep. I like go run an errand, come back, and I pick him up and he literally is like limp. Like I literally thought he went through like a stroke or something. And he literally wasn't moving or doing anything. Like he wasn't licking me, like doing anything. And he was like just shaking. And I started freaking out. So I took him to the emergency room and they're like, hey, can I try something? I'm like, sure. So they bopped him on the head and she's like, he's high. He is high. And I'm like, she's like, do you guys smoke? And I'm like, no, like I swear, like, what do you mean he's high? I'm like, we don't even have weed in our house. So yeah, so my dog got really high and it was actually really scary. I like texted
Oh
Bret, I'm like,
no.
what do I do?
Oh no, and he's so small.
Is there weed laying around Glute Lab? I'm like, no, I don't think so. I don't smoke either.
It was
Oh my
yeah, it was
God.
the same day that I brought him to Glute Lab, but it was literally outside my complex. So I'm
That's
like, oh.
crazy. That's
New
crazy.
dog mom things. Sammy, you're gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
Yep.
That was like the most terrifying thing I think I've ever experienced.
Had your
Okay.
first like emergency thing happen, like that's pretty typical. Like, yeah, there's always that one thing that happens right away. And then you're just like,
I can't imagine actually having kids. I'm like, okay, I
oh
think I'm good
God, right?
We might need to talk about that before. We might have a few discussions.
right now. He is 20.
Jane, how's your week been?
Good, good. Past 7 days, you guys, nothing too crazy here. As you know, I'm prepping for a photo shoot for next week, and then I'm gonna compete in my first NPC show December 2nd. Bret, I come from the natural leagues. I a pro in OCB and or in IPE. So this is I'm switching over. It's been 3 years since I've made it my presence known on stage. So I'm a little scared, but I'm excited. So my little prep before the prep is going great. Tightening up each week. Food's in a decent place. We're going to come out a little bit and then drop back down. So I've been focused on that, focused on the gym. Actually, Bret, I got to talk to you about some things. I'm actually in physical therapy right now for my glutes because I had back surgery last year. And so I think really the year before that, they kind of just stopped firing the way they're supposed to. Anyway, that didn't happen this past week, but I did go to physical therapy. But I've just been focusing on my business. I'm really, really growing. I want to get to 100 clients and girls, I was just telling you, like I landed last month at 85. I'm almost there, and so it's just kind of making sure that I do it in the right pace and right speed so that I can give my clients my all. That's where we're at.
Absolutely. You're killing it, dude. In
Yeah, you
all
are.
aspects. Uh, well, I am 2.5 weeks out from my pro debut. So I'm a figure pro, Bret, if you didn't know that. And so I'm 2.5 weeks out and I'm feeling it. Food is low, cardio's high, all the things, but we're getting there. So just have to keep pushing. That's pretty much it. That's why I'm wearing a sweatshirt in the middle of summertime because, things,
Crazy.
Do you want
cold
me to
all the
talk about
time.
my week?
Yeah, you're next, dude.
My week has been great. My squad is getting so strong. Sammy's getting so strong. it took me a while to like, we had lots of arguments. Like, Sammy, quit getting distracted and just get strong. And she's getting really strong now. But yeah, my whole squad, they're crushing it.
Sammy getting distracted? What?
Well, he didn't like my 3 times a week. He thought I was being inconsistent.
No, because before that you went from like one extreme to the other, and then I'm
Oh,
like, now you're going too far. But hey, we're on the right track now. So,
Cool. That's
yeah.
exciting.
but
So
Sammy has like 4 chefs. I'm always like, you need one chef. You got four, and then she picks whichever chef she wants to hear.
Like, I like this answer. Okay.
That's
So, Sammy, can you give the viewers and our listeners a little bit of overview of like how you met Bret and like how you started working with him at the Glute Lab?
Yeah, so I'm friends with Masa, who is an IFBB pro, and she's been working with Bret ever since he got started. She's like the OG of the Glute Lab and the Glute Squad. So she actually introduced me to Bret. I met him at Powerhouse. He was very intimidating at first. But then, I kind of started making my way in, asked if I could come to Glute Lab, and then he said, yeah, keep coming. And then I just had to show him that I was consistent and dedicated, and then he finally allowed me to be part of the glute squad. So here I am, officially part of the squad. I made the reel.
You were
So
forming the squad. It's not like I was like, you were part right away. You were part of it.
oh, I appreciate that. But yeah, Bret has honestly taught me so much, you guys. It's crazy because I come from obviously doing my own training and everything like that, and having multiple different coaches, multiple chefs, I guess. But so I've always trained so differently, and it wasn't until I started training with Bret, honestly, this last year, where I've actually listened to him. I'm doing more intentional like exercises, not doing as many exercises. So I used to just go into the gym and just try to kill it. Like I tried to do a million exercises, too many reps, too much volume. And it's honestly actually the opposite, especially with growing. And it's kind of like what we learned with Jason too. It's like doing less sometimes is more.
Mhm.
So Bret just has so much expertise in all of this, and it's really cool to actually be able to work with him, get to know him, and I'm just excited. So, Bret, let's start with you and let's just have you tell us a little bit about you, your mission, and like how you got started. And then also, like, people want to always know, like, I know you just went on Mind Pump for the podcast. So, he kind of asked you, like, how are you training all these girls and people for free? So, let's hear a little bit about you and how you got started.
Well, so I think like life, I just always think of myself as just this pinball. Like I never have a plan. I just roll with things. Like even now I'm 47 years old and I'm like, I don't know what I'll be doing in a couple of years, like um, but I always thought I'd train males, like athletes. But when I started, I was a teacher, high school math teacher. Then I got my master's degree. While I was getting my master's degree, one of the professors was like, Bret, you need to go into fitness. Like this project you turned in is so good. Clearly, it's your passion. You know, you should open up. Actually, she said I should be a professor of like exercise science, but I knew that wasn't going to be good for me. I knew I wanted to open up a gym. But when I did, it was all women referring their friends to me. And I just like ran with it. And then I remember I'm like, because I train like three like male powerlifters, I need like 2,000 pounds. I could train a bunch of like new clients that were female. I could train 10 of them with 1,000 pounds of weight. So plus the men, if I train them the way I train the women, there's so sweat after that. There's just drips of sweat all around your gym, and it's just not as
You'd have
fun.
to hire
I think women are more appreciative, and I just gravitate towards that. Which I think is funny that I ended up specializing in training women because I don't. It's not like I'm this like our bathroom, Sammy. I don't know have all the things that you need and stuff. I'm very like
cleanly.
my gym would be just this rusty like plates everywhere, but I try to make it look nice and feel nice, but I'm not the most like I'm a masculine guy and somehow I train all women. I love it though. I love providing a safe space for the women so they don't have to worry about men hitting on them in the gym. And it's been a so much fun for me to empower women because I remember this was probably 10 years ago. I took my first, maybe even more. Yeah. I took my first bikini competitors and convinced them to do powerlifting. And
Awesome. I love
and
that.
that's been my mission ever since. It's like to break this dogma of like you're just gonna wake up jacked, too jacked for your own liking, as if it's that easy,
Mhm.
and to break that stigma, um, and like empower like women and try to get them to fall in love with strength training. So I do have my master's degree in curriculum and instruction. I was a teacher, so I go about things like a teacher. I try to teach them a system. I teach them the names of exercises and what they work and the rationale why I do the things I do. Because, you might have a client for 6 months. You don't know when they're going to stop with you. You try to teach them as much as possible so they can then train people for life and then spread the knowledge too to all the people they end up helping.
Love your philosophy on that. All three of us are in the online space for nutrition, for prep, all of the things. And I would agree with you. And like, I'm always trying to teach clients as much as I can possibly give them because they can't become codependent upon me. And people move through phases of life, people move destinations. And I think that's really powerful. So your story is kind of cool.
By the way, there are some trainers that are like, they don't want you to learn anything. They try to get you dependent, like
Oh yeah,
switch up
100%.
every workout. Every workout's different. They don't teach you anything. And it's such a, a small-minded philosophy, like what's the term, Sammy? What is it called?
Um,
Mindset, the two mindsets,
A
the
fixed mindset.
fixed versus growth mindset versus fixed
oh,
mindset. Yeah, they have the fixed mindset. I've always just thought about like I'm going to teach this person how to fish, give them the gift of straight, like teach them the gift of training themselves and knowing how to train themselves for life, and it's always served me well. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. I like your story because it's a lot of people land in fitness and nutrition on accident. Like, we all started somewhere else and then all of a sudden like this like passion or almost like your purpose takes over and you really just can't help yourself but pursue it. And that your story reminds me a little bit of myself in that way. Because by no means did I start where I'm at today. But I want to talk a little bit more about something that you said about having this safe place for women because that's really powerful. And I don't know if you know how powerful that is, but a female who goes to the gym with all the dudes and the bros, like it sucks. And so I think that that's amazing, that you've kind of created this safe space. So what does that mean? Like, what does that look like on the day to day? What does your gym look like? I from what I understand, it's invite only, right? Like it's only certain people that are training there. Tell us more about that.
So I have two main gyms. Well, I've got a gym in Vegas too, but it's my garage gym in my house, but it's a 4-car garage gym. My San Diego gym is like, it's like 1,800 square feet, so it's smaller. My Fort Lauderdale gym is like 3,000 square feet. So like, not quite double the size. But anyway, it's my San Diego gym. It just so happened, I start out training men and women, but I had my squad, and then it was all women's. My squad. We had male members like getting personal training. We had a lot of the jujitsu guys coming and seeing my trainers, but when COVID happened and like, yeah, it was mostly all women coming, a couple of men, and then when I moved, I ended up moving to Vegas, and then I moved to Fort Lauderdale. But I'm like, I'm just gonna give them all a key and keep paying the rent. I can't tell them, hey guys, sorry, I'm closing up shop. You guys they're all my best friends now. During the quarantine year, we got so close. I'm not gonna kick them back out to go train at these commercial gyms. So I just gave them all a key, kept paying the rent. and said, look, I need a space. I need to film Booty by Bret videos every month anyway. So I'll come back at least once a month. And then you guys can come visit me in Vegas whenever you want, and we'll stay on top of things. And we did. It was all great until I moved to Fort Lauderdale. Now my San Diego squad's annoyed at me because I don't come back to visit enough, and they're watching my Fort Lauderdale squad get super strong. So they're
Squad
like,
or squad,
yeah,
but we're gonna come together.
we gotta come together. Um, but in Fort Lauderdale, I wanted to create a similar thing, so I didn't want to grow too quickly. And but yeah, within like I don't know a month, I already had two. I don't want it to be 50 people. I don't need to make a profit with my gyms. They're mainly first and foremost for me to lift weights. I can't stand commercial. I cannot stand going to commercial gyms. Like I was training at Powerhouse Fort Lauderdale when I got here, and I love Powerhouse Fort Lauderdale. I love the big windows, the light coming in, the equipment, but just here in Fort Lauderdale, I don't know what it is that all the dudes are slamming the weights so hard, and it triggers me. And I've even gone up to a couple of them, these giant bodybuilders. And why are you slamming the weights? Why? What are you doing? That's not how you lift weights. Like you don't. And I've thought about this a lot. They have to do it because they think it makes them look tough. Like girls are going to be like, oh my god, listen to how loud he is. That's so many stacks. Like as if girls care that you have the whole stack.
Yep.
But they'll argue with me about it. I'm like, if you can lift it, you can lower it. Like you're stronger eccentrically. And that's a hypertrophy stimulus. So when you slam the weights, you're actually missing out on
Yeah.
some of the hypertrophy. And then they try to like intimidate me and like because guys can't just be like, you're right, I'm sorry. But I'm like, I can't, it's gonna get me into trouble. I can't be at
It
these
was
gyms.
always so funny. So when we first started meeting, like, so we'd go train at Powerhouse before his gym was done, and he was getting so mad at this one guy just doing like tricep extensions and slamming the weight. This guy was slamming the weight, and he was just so boiled about it. He's like, I'm gonna go say something to him. So we're like, yeah, do it, do it. We didn't think he was going to. He literally goes up to the guy, taps him. He's like, he's just like, hey, you don't have to slam the weights. He was super nice about it, and the guy like just looked at him like dumbfounded. He didn't even know what to say.
What the heck?
The owner of the gym likes me though, so he's like, I'll have your back. But the guys are like dumbfounded, but I'm like, listen, every time I come here, there's like two machines out of order. My machines have lasted 20 years. They don't break if you treat them well. They break because these stupid, idiotic men, it makes me embarrassed of my own gender because the only reason they do it is because they think it makes them look tough. And no one cares. That's what one of the guys said. He goes, if you were using the weight that I use, you'd be slamming them too. And I'm like, first of all, I'm stronger than him. I just don't look like it. I use way more weight than he does. But I'm not going to get into. I can't be like, actually, I'm stronger than you. I don't even know what to reply to that. I was like, that's ridiculous. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner or if you're a elite. You can control the weight. But I'm tired of the machines being out of order because of people like you slamming the weights. But I'm used to owning the gym, so I control things. I don't get to control anything when I don't have control. I hate that at the commercial gym. If I owned a commercial gym, I would establish etiquette. Every member would have to watch a video. I'd be like, don't crowd the dumbbell rack. You got to step. I'd have a line of tape. Stand behind here when you do the exercises. Here's the way things are done, and to put
It's
things
the
back where
teacher. It's the teacher. No, it's not.
Proper gym etiquette.
I love
I
this.
so I
Yeah.
need a gym and also the equipment at gyms. It's like, if you get a machine where like say there's a leg curl and you can't and it stops before you get a stretch, like that's not a good machine. You should have it altered, like hire someone to get you can the commercial gyms aren't allowed to do that because then if you alter the machine, then the liability's on you. But my point is I make sure, like Sammy, aren't all my machines at Glute Lab amazing? I
Yeah.
I go back and buy like the old school Cybex Hack Squad or like the one that I love the most, and so my machines are all really really good.
Well,
Like
and that's something else to just put on here is that you actually have equipment that you create, right? That has the better
yeah,
range of motion.
the PC Strength line, I'm very proud of it because like yeah, how many shorter women go to use a back extension and the 45-degree hyper and you're it's too tall for you. Like it goes like the shortest setting is at your belly button and you round over. Then you're trying to like find things to load on the foot plate and it just doesn't work. So like my 45-degree hyper, I've had a 4'10" person use it. So
I'm 4'9".
oh really?
Yep. I'm 4'9", and every piece of equipment I have to like adjust it
I
or
think you could use the BC strength. I'm curious.
Honestly, it's
Yeah.
the best.
okay, Sammy, when I come visit, I'm
Yeah.
gonna come visit
We'll
you
see.
guys and try it out.
Pass. But it's funny, I was on a podcast with a male who he's owned his own equipment company for decades. And we were talking about making equipment, and he goes, yeah. I said, it's you got to accommodate a wide variety of people. He's like, yeah, like 5'5" to like 6'6". And I'm like, 5'5", you're missing what
Oh,
percentage of women are under 5'5"? That just goes to show you,
Literally.
oh,
Yeah.
5 foot at least, to so anyway, I can make equipment that suits women well, and it's really comfortable. Like all of my line of equipment, it's more for like garage gyms and home gyms, not for like. But hell, we have at Powerhouse. They have the hip thruster, 3.0. They have the 45 hyper, the Nordic ham curl. So I'm very proud of my equipment line. But yeah, to have this safe space for women, that's something I heard all my women talking about in San Diego. They're like, God, I go to these commercial gyms and I just hate it. I hate getting not just creeped upon, but mansplaining. Like you do glute exercise and dudes will come up to you and be like, tell you how to do it, or like, why are you doing hip thrusts? And they've never even done a set of hip thrusts. And they're telling you how to hip thrust. They don't even do any glute training and they're telling you how to train your glutes. Like women should start. I wish so bad we could have like a flip flop and women started going up to guys all day long, being like, why do you wait? Let me get this straight. You train legs 1 day a week and you train upper body 5 days a week. Maybe you should train legs more often, dude. Like start mansplaining them. Maybe, hey, bro, you need to do more hip thrusts. Hey, bro, you should hit your calves more. Like, what makes guys think that they can go up and give unsolicited advice? It's so annoying because that again, they think in the guy's head they're gonna be like Sammy, what are you doing? And you're gonna be like, oh my god, you know so much. Will you go on a date with me? Will you sleep with me? Like that's what that goes on in their stupid, idiotic minds, because they're
it's
trying to like that's their way of trying to get in with you. Like,
Yeah.
oh, and here's another man who's trying to, not respect me and act like he knows more than me about something he never even trains, glutes. So I love that I can give the key to them. They all can train there whenever they want, and that's my San Diego gym. My Fort Lauderdale gym, I haven't given individual keys out to all of them yet.
Oh, where's Mikey?
I know, but it's better this way because when I go back home now to San Diego, I'm annoyed because like 4 girls will show up when I'm there, and then at 10, I'll be like, be there at 10, and then they show up all throughout the day. It's better. You see better results when you train with people. Like Sammy would get very complacent thinking, what you watched Amanda yesterday deadlift 225 for 10. You stop thinking your 185 for 10 is a big deal, or you know what I mean? Like if like the hip thrust, the glute drive machine at our gym, the hammer strength, everyone's using 3 and 4 plates per side now.
I
You
know.
thinking
Crazy.
your 185 is a big deal because you watch all the girls using 4 plates, so it pushes you. So it's better this way that I didn't give keys out. I tell them all be there between like 10. I'll be there between 10 and 1, and then Sammy shows up at like 12.
No, like 11, 11:30.
But like yeah, like I love it. It's so cool watching now. My Fort Lauderdale squad's getting strong, but they don't have to deal with men. And I made sure. So my San Diego girls were like, Bret, you need to have better lighting in my San Diego gym. And I'm like, we have the best lighting. It's like a giant mirror, or sorry, a window in the front, like in mirrors. There's so much natural lighting there. Yeah, but at nighttime the light sucks. And I'm like, how? I never paid attention to it. And they're like, we want to go to Compound and like whatever these new gyms are called. I can't remember the names of it. But one in LA starts with an I. It's amazing. So I started looking at these new gyms. I'm like, they're all black. They all have the white lighting, like the really nice high powered lighting, and it just looks crisper. So I renovated the San Diego gym, and then this one I designed to just be really aesthetically pleasing. I
Cool.
I
spent
love
like
it.
200 grand on the, design, like just redoing it so it looks really nice. So you'll be proud of your videos. It makes you look better. The lighting is really good. So I feel like it's a new era. I'm a trainer, but I'm also like a videographer. Like I have to learn their angles and how they like to like Bobby Manu likes to post reels. So she likes me to move more and being a little closer, whereas Urishna likes to post swipe post. So she wants me further away and not really moving much, maybe just a little bit. But and then I have to learn like this girl likes her right butt cheek more than her left, or like you have a bigger glute. She likes it on this side. And then Bobby likes me to put the exposure down a little. So I
Mm-hmm.
learned these things because I'm like, make yourself, I've always said this as a trainer. I don't need to make money as a personal trainer, but make yourself useful. Make them, when they don't train with you, make them be like, oh, this sucks. I usually have Bret here to change all my
Yeah, it
weights and
sounds like
tell
we
me
all
what.
need a Bret. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
no kidding.
Your attention to detail on the video.
Yeah.
Right?
I do want to talk a little bit about your like training philosophy, Brett, because I to be honest didn't know a whole lot about you because I compete in figure. So like
Yep.
glute stuff for me is like very basic. Like I do glutes obviously because I still have to. But I also come from a powerlifting background. So to hear you talk about how you got like a bikini girl to do powerlifting is like I'm like fuck yeah, like that's awesome. Like I'm all for like girls getting stronger and stuff and like that's how I gained a lot of muscle density too. So I kind of want to hear a little bit about that and just with your philosophy too about training around other people. I come from a private gym setting as well, where we all train together. We're all pushing each other. And like I was the smallest one. And so here's little Kayla trying to keep up with girls that are like 30 pounds heavier than me. And I'm like competitive. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna like try to do that. And so and I would do it, and it does make a difference. So I can highly attest to that, for sure. But I want to hear about your training philosophy. Like what's
So,
your idea around like how women should train?
well, first of all, how women should train is completely up to them. It's like their goals. So if someone just wants bigger glutes, that's okay. Men get so mad and strong women get so mad. They're like these stupid fitness, fitfluencers just training glutes. There are some girls that they're like, Brett, I like the way my legs look. I don't want them any bigger. I just want more rounder glutes. But then there's other girls that want to compete in bikini, wellness, figure, bodybuilding. Um, but most women in general just want to be leaner overall, a little more shape everywhere, and then especially some shape in the glutes because it's a hard area to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to push powerlifting on people, but then during the quarantine, I call it strong lifting. I made up this strength sport, but the only people who've done it is my squad. I think I opened one up to the public. We've done like 5 meets. It's just something special with my squad. But like I had one in Fort Lauderdale in April. Kind of I guess it was like a grand opening, but I'm not really open. So I spent like 70 grand. I got all my girls out, flew all these strong women in from around the world. But it's strong lifting is 6 lifts, not 3 lifts. So you think it's hard to train for 3 lifts. Powerlifting is hard. You try training for 6 lifts. So I've always loved squats, bench, and deadlifts. But I feel like as a physique system, it's incomplete.
Yes.
You need something more for the delts, military press. You need something more for your back. Yes, deadlifts will work your back, like bench will work your shoulders, more the anterior shoulders. So we do military press, we do weighted chin ups, and then we do hip thrusts. And the hip thrusts just help you add even more glutes. Squats and deadlifts work your glutes, but hip thrusts really target the glutes. So it's one day you do all 6 lifts. Everyone gets 3 lifts. Powerlifting has rules. We had to establish rules for the military press, the chin up. Like chin up, you start from a dead hang, you have to touch your chest to the bar. It's not just getting your chin over the bar, you have to actually touch your chest. Um, And then you have to think about like you can't kick and keep convulsing and kicking. You have to, like all the you see what people do with military. You can't lean back too far, but how do you enforce that? It's really tough. Hip thrust, how do you know they locked it out? What rules do you use? It's really tough. But it's been so fun because when my girls, all right, what the world will tell you is, oh, doing 1 rep maxes is stupid. Training heavy, what's the point? Why would you ever do a set under 5 reps?
Yeah.
What happens in the real world when you compete, when you set your mind to something, you push yourself harder and you're going for PRs. And all my girls will be their leanest and looking their best right as they do it. And that's what I love is I'll invite all these girls into town. We compete and then we'll have a day at the beach and they all love they'll all take their pictures together and have a video shoot, but they look and feel so strong because they're competing well. They're lifting heavy. They're not so dieted down that they're weak and depleted, but they're feeling amazing. They're feeling strong. They're feeling athletic, but they're looking their best because they peaked for this event. So when I started doing that was during the quarantine. I was like, man, my girls are starting to get really strong. I should do a competition. Well, I don't want to do powerlifting. I want to do 6 lifts. So I made up my own strength sport that kind of like we get to do. I feel like this could get big around the world. I just don't have the time. I feel like strong lifting could get very popular if I had the right people in place. But that's kind of my philosophy. I was very heavily influenced by Louis Simmons back in the day. And then
Louis Simmons is great. Yes, 100%. Mm-hmm.
And so I use bands, I use chains, we use accommodating resistance. Now everything's about training at long muscle lengths, and you don't make it harder in the shortened position. But I think research will come to find that is very valuable. But anyway, my girls, I love teaching them all the accessories, all the, how to design programs and how to get stronger at these 6 lifts. It's not easy. So we've realized over time, it's like, yeah, it's hard to bench and military press twice a week is tough. You can do it, but you can't do much more. You can't throw in JM presses. You can't throw in weighted dips. You can't throw in more compounds. So we don't do a lot of extra tricep and delt work. But we always do abduction for the upper and lower bodies. We throw in some delt work because it's nice to have delts.
Yep.
But that's for physique purposes, for confidence. Yep. It's not mainly more for transferring to the big lifts. The chin up, we found that curls help with women. Women and men have different rules. Like push-ups during the quarantine, push-ups, like 6 of my girls set PRs after not training for 3 months because they were doing so many push-ups. PRs in the bench press. Push-ups made my girls PR in their bench. But men, it's too big of a gap. Men do push-ups, they need a little more load. So anyway, guys have been doing curls since they came out of the womb. When women start doing curls seriously, their chin-ups go up. We found all these, like, your hip thrust will always be limited by what you can lock out. So we do a lot of pause reps and a lot of band around the hips too, or like bands around the bar and the thruster, like to make the lockout even harder. But you can't just throw in so many accessories because you got to focus on those big 6. But I like teaching them all the, things that are worth seeing if they work for you. The single leg stuff, the good mornings, the extra hamstring work, all the different lifts, like the deficit deadlifts, the pause stuff, the safety squat bar, all these things that I love that my San Diego squad especially, they know all this stuff. They're legit lifters. I turned them into bros, like, and they speak the language and I love it. And they're very knowledgeable. And I know my Fort Lauderdale squad will get there too. But yeah, that is my philosophy. But even if someone so I get some people who have back pain. And it's like, okay, I would like Natalie. Natalie had back pain when she came. So at first I'm like, and she kept having these reoccurring injuries. So I'm like, no squats, no deadlifts. Your first workout is going to be leg extensions, seated leg curls, seated hip abduction, and maybe some band kickbacks. Okay. Are you sore the next day? No. Good. We know we can do those lifts. Those 4 lifts are safe. Now we're going to add in the glute drive or like some hip thrusts. Are you sore? No, you're good. Let's keep growing those because if you're working hard on hip thrusts, leg extensions, leg curls, you will not atrophy. You'll keep your quads, you'll keep your hamstrings, you'll keep your glutes. All right. Now let's start doing a single leg movement. Now let's see if you can do deadlifts with the T-bell or something. Now let's add these things in one at a time. We don't add in two things at a time, because if your back is sore, we don't know what it was from. Was it from this lift or this lift? You just use the scientific method, change one thing at a time. Oop, yeah, I did these heavy weighted lunges and my back, my SI joint feels iffy today. Okay, we're not going to go so hard on lunges anymore. Good to know. So now Sammy's back to doing squats and deadlifts again. Her back's feeling good. We had to be very systematic and very scientific with it. But some people who just always have back pain, maybe they don't ever do squats or deadlifts, but they're going to work hard on the hack squat or whatever they can do, some single leg movement, or some type of hinge where it's maybe they can do a band 45-degree hyper. They're still doing a hinge movement. It's just not a deadlift necessarily, or maybe it's a B stance deadlift. But my point is, you can if you know enough variations, you can find lifts that work for everyone.
That's what's cool for me. I was gonna say, because I had back surgery. I had just a massive herniated disc that I let go for way too long. I didn't know. I just was pushing through the pain. So probably for about a year, I don't actually think my right glute was working. Like, I just don't think it was firing as best as it could. And so as I was coming into this prep, so that was about a year ago that I had the surgery. As I was coming into this prep, I was leaning out a little bit for a photo shoot where like everything in my body is changing except my butt. And so I literally had to do exactly what you just did. I had to like go all the way back and figure out what is going to work and get it firing again. And then what movements actually work for me without firing my back or hamstrings first.
Which, by the way, if everything else develops, but your glutes don't, it makes your glutes look even smaller.
Correct.
So
I'm moving to Fort Lauderdale or San Diego.
in bikini, it's about the proportions. So I always say, yes, we can get our quads and hams bigger. We got to get the glutes bigger too. It's not always easy. So a lot of the feedback with bikini competitors, you need more you need a better glute ham time, which is more about conditioning. But now you need more upper glutes. You need more upper glutes. So you have to add in the abduction work, which a lot of people don't do. So yeah, it's tough when the herniated disc. I wish I could help, because it's like when I take these people with back pain, if they listen to me, if they do what I tell them to do, I can get them. But the hardest part is what they do when you're not watching them. Like Natalie will go do a CrossFit. So I'm like, don't do CrossFit. Recently this Julia started coming to Glute Lab and she can't stop twerking. She goes out and she's a Brazilian. Is she Brazilian, Sammy?
Yeah, she's Brazilian, I think.
Brazilian. She likes to dance. And I'm like, quit. She's like, that's what I do. And I'm like, I'm trying to get the back feeling better. But it's the stuff you do. I remember a girl in San Diego. It's so funny because I kept going, there's something you're doing. And she's like, Bret, I figured out what it was. And I'm like, what? She's like, a TMI, but it was a sexual position me and my boyfriend were doing. And I'm like, you have to care about all that stuff.
You're like, oh.
Cut that out, and then her back got better. You have to think
That's
about
funny.
all that stuff, You have
So
to think
it's
about
really, it's cool because you customize like everybody's program. So like even like me coming in, like originally like I'd just be like, hey, what am I supposed to do? And then you'd kind of just tell me what to do, which I followed. But when I started actually being consistent, it's like you learned what I need to do for me. And so now we have me on a program, just like most of the girls at Glute Squad now too. So it's really interesting. Like even now, like we have a program, but you still kind of customize it to me and how I'm feeling, if I'm sore or not sore. And that's why I'm coming more consistently too, because I'm seeing results and like making it happen. But at the same time, like you only allow me to do so many exercises and you're very strategic about it, which I've never been through. So can you kind of explain a little bit like your strategy, kind of what you're doing with me and some of the other girls, like with the squats, the deadlifts, and then some other movements?
So it's such a rush when I'm training 10 of you at the same time, and everyone's like, Coach, what should I do next? I love that because I don't write everyone's workouts every day.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a sixth sense, but it only is that way if I work with you every week. Like Sammy, I could tell yesterday with your deadlift. I'm I mean, Black Friday, we're deloading, but I'm like, 135 looked so easy. I'm like, just hit 225 for one. You've never done it before. It's cool to get 4 plates. She did it easy. But she's still deloaded. It was easy day for her. We're gonna do an easy day on Thursday as well, and not push it too hard. But I watch them and I can see how they move 135, how they move 185, and I know, okay, she's strong today, or she looks weak today. And then with their feedback too, if they're going, Coach, I'm dragging today, then I'm like, okay, maybe we go for a high rep PR today instead of like a heavy PR. Or maybe we don't even do. Let's start doing a new variation. Let's start doing banded hip thrusts instead of just to get your mind off of the heavy weight and the PRs. Let's establish new baselines for another lift. But everyone's different. Like Bobby Manu gets a glute pump from box squats and from RDLs. A lot of people don't. I don't. I feel squats in my quads. I feel RDLs all in my hamstrings.
Thanks.
So it's like I'll give her those for glutes even. I know which exercise people like for glutes. I also know that Sammy's gonna compete in bikini again, and we need to get her. It's changing. It's like things are tougher now. You got to be more jacked, and so we got to get her strong. We got to develop muscle everywhere. So for Sammy, we need quads, we need hammies, we need everything, upper body muscle too. So it's cool with her. I have no, but like with some of the other girls, it's like they've been told, well, even like like Yarishna, she's been told your legs overpower your glutes. Well, her legs are easy for her to develop. So we got to really prioritize glutes and so if we just prioritize hip thrusts and some of my glute machines that I have, and that's the thing, it's boring. It's so boring. That's why you need a coach or you won't stick to it. You want to switch it up. It's fun doing the leg machines. It's so boring coming in and doing hip thrusts every time. And this glute machine I have, that Body Masters bent leg back extension machine that works your glutes, and the gluteator and the hammer strength multi-hip machine to do abduction off it and kickbacks. But that's what they need to do for like 6 months to a whole year to get their glutes in proportion with their legs. And then now we can train everything hard again. Or at least you just need a phase where you focus on glutes. So everyone's different. And everyone has different exercise they prefer and different exercise they tolerate well. But what I like is that in general, people don't get injured when I'm around. It sucks because when I moved to Vegas, that's when my San Diego squad started getting injured, because I'm there to say, if Sammy goes, oh, my hip isn't feeling good today. Okay, we're not going deep today. We're not going to do deep squats. You're going to do other things. She says my low back isn't feeling good right now, we're not going to do deadlifts. I train around things, and that's what I bring to the table is teaching them how to not injure themselves, or like just making sure, because you'll see the best results if you train week in and week out consistently. If you're always sidelined,
Yep.
you just don't make progress.
I also think you did a post on this too the other day about like how the exercises are boring, right? But they have to be boring. But I think the way that you make it more fun, because we do the same thing every single week, but I think it's more fun for me because I'm focusing on getting stronger right now and hitting PRs. I've never focused on PRs. I was always like a number that I was trying to hit, like, okay, 20 reps of this exercise. So I think like hitting the PRs makes it more fun, but also boring is what works. And so I think a lot of the listeners, if they're listening, like this is something crucial because again, you did a post on this recently about how the boring exercises are what you need to stick to in order to make progress.
Yeah.
And it's funny because with Sammy, like she hit 315 for 15 or 16. Was it 16?
I think 16, yeah.
Pretty easily. So I had told her when she first got in, I go, why don't you hit 315 for 20? And at first everyone's like, what? But they get there. They get there, especially because I'm there to. And so Sammy will have, I called this the Allegra PR plan because of my client Allegra when working with her in the quarantine. She wanted to train glutes every day. She's like obsessed. And I'm like, how can I make a system where okay, one day I'm gonna have her squat, one day I'm gonna have her deadlift, one day I'm gonna have her hip thrust, and then I'll have her do upper body or like some kickbacks and light, easy stuff, and then repeat. But I had to like stall her because she's obsessed. She's got to train every day. So, but on her squat day, I do 45-degree hypers, then light hip thrust and abduction. On her squat day, on her deadlift day, she'd do a single leg movement. But the single leg movement, like she's 130 pounds, like 128. and she'd be doing Smith machine reverse lunges with two 45-pound plates on each side, like
Wow.
25-pound reverse lunges. I have girls that come in and they're like bikini competitors, and they'll put a 10 on each side, and I'm like, that's fine for now, but you got to get stronger. And I tell them, I want you doing 2 plates per side. They're like, what? No one can do that. I'm like, yes, like 4 of my girls back home can do it. And then just
It
being told,
motivates us.
being told that, because now Sammy's almost going to accomplish the goal of 315 for 20. It's only been a few months. So being told a goal, but what we do is the Allegro PR plan was always, I just say, all right, you've hit, like, I can think of myself with like hip thrusts. At one point, and this one you need to stop when it becomes so overwhelming to you. At one point, I hit 405 for 20, 495 for 15, 585 for 10, 675 for 5, 725 for 2, and 800 for 1. And
Jeez.
one of those sets I don't want to try to beat. And when it gets to that point and you start feeling like, my girls will tell me they'll get like diarrhea, like they get so anxiety thinking about having to set a PR. That's when it's time to change. You want to enjoy strength training, not dread it so bad. But yeah, it's like, I got to set a squat PR today. Oh my God, you start thinking about it a couple of nights before. But anyway, I'd have their different loads. Like for me, I just told you all my loads with hip thrusts. But I got that I would be like, I'm going to go for one more rep. So just pick one load.
Mm-hmm.
And so Sammy has maybe she's done 315 for 16. She could probably do 365 for 8. She could probably do 405 for 5. She could probably do 455 for 2 or something. You know what I mean? So say those were all her baselines. We just were her current PRs. And then I just say to her, Sammy, which do you want to beat today? And then she can think about it and go, okay, I think I want to be, I don't feel like doing 315 for 17 today. I feel like I'm going to go for, I haven't done 405 for a while. I've only done 405 for 4. I think I could easily get 5 right now. And so she gets 5. Then you accomplish the goal for the day. Everything else is icing on the cake. You know, maybe sometimes we'll sit at 2 PRs, but we don't purposely go for 2 PRs. So you have your PR set, then maybe a heavier set where you don't go to failure. You're not trying to beat anything. And then a lighter set where you focus on the feel. And then you switch, you go to the next exercise, but it's like, we'll have, so yeah, everyone's different, but in general, you're every week. Well, one session, I say, try to get 4 movements in.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to pick a hip thrusting movement. It could be a glute bridge or a frog pump or any type of hip thrust. Okay. And then you're going to do a squatting movement, a squat lunge type movement. It could be a squat. It could be a step up. It could be a lunge, a split squat, or it could be any of the quad machines, the pendulum squat, the hack squat, the leg press, the belt squat, the lever squat. Then you're going to pick a hinge movement. It could be a deadlift. It could be any deadlift variation. It could be a 45-degree hyper. It could be a reverse hyper. It could be a good morning, something where your legs are straighter and you're bending. Because then the squat is going to work the quads and the glutes. The hinge is going to work the hamstrings and the glutes. The thrust is going to work mostly the glutes. And now you throw in an abduction movement for the upper glutes. So sometimes you're doing bent over hip abduction, like the seated hip abduction machine. And other times you're doing straight up frontal plane abduction, where it's more the glute medius. And like with the quad stuff, kind of some quad stuff is more quad dominant. Some quad stuff is more glute dominant. For example, walking lunges can get your glutes sore. So you might do walking lunges on Monday, but then on Wednesday, maybe you do hack squats because those tend to hit the quads more. Maybe you alternate with the hamstring stuff. Maybe you don't always do a hinge movement. Sometimes you alternate between a hinge and a knee flexion movement because it's good to get strong at Nordic ham curls and glute ham raises and the different leg curl variations. But my system is awesome. It works so well, but I'm there to, and then if you want to throw in a 5th or 6th movement, you can, but it's got to be a wimpy movement. It's got to be a leg curl, a kickback, another abduction, but not a squat or something. You're not going to throw in squats and deadlifts at the end or anything like that. And it just works really well.
So it sounds like you're going more from like compound, like multi-joint, to smaller joint movements at towards the end. So that way you can use all of your energy towards those bigger movements,
Yeah.
and then get those little like extras in at the end there to like really pinpoint certain things. Like if you're lagging in a certain area, for
But
example.
then sometimes, like with India, India got told, Paulino, she got told, you need more upper glutes. She's a bikini competitor. That's the main thing she needs. So we started every workout out with abduction and ended each one. We did 2 abduction each day. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're a competitor and you have one glaring thing you're being told, then you might start out with that. But then also it doesn't have to be in the order that I said. It doesn't go thrust, squat lunge, hinge, abduction. It could be a squat first, and it could be a hinge first. You can change the order around, but the goal is you're always trying to set PRs. And once you're tired of an exercise, switch variations, but we're always going for PRs. So very influenced by West Side and you know, but just kind of like West Side for glute for more with more of a glute emphasis. Which by the way, West Side, if you think about it, they were doing back in the 80s and 90s, and they were doing a lot of horizontal hip extension stuff before it was even popular. They were doing back raises, back extensions. They were doing reverse hypers. They were doing cable pull throughs, which cracks me up. These big, gigantic powerlifters were doing cable pull throughs, which get made fun of nowadays. But they were doing all these things. I just think hip thrusts are better. That they didn't exist back then,
Right.
but they so yeah, very influenced by Louis and all these big powerlifters and big strength coaches. Like when I started out, I listened to the guys who own gyms, guys that aren't very as popular nowadays because the algorithms doesn't favor actual practitioners, guys who actually own gyms, like Joe DeFranco, Jason Ferruggia, all these guys that like Zach Evanesh, I listened to because they trained the way I do. They would do that with their athletes, and I mimicked their system. I mimicked them, but then I just catered it more to women over time.
Right. So West Side Barbell for bikini athletes,
That's what
basically,
I do.
which is great. I'm very familiar with West Side. I used to train conjugate when I did powerlifting, and it honestly helped me a ton with growth. And it's also good, I think, because I think with a lot of women, we always have that, especially in off season. It's that like, oh, I can't gain so much weight, or like, oh, I can't wait to get to the next show. So to have a strength goal is awesome because it puts your focus on something else, like what Sammy
So
said.
agree with you. I so
Like
agree with
I
you.
I do the same thing for myself. Like I wanted to hit a bench goal and squat and deadlift goal this off season, this last one, because I was going to be in there for a while. So I was like, all right, I'm going to focus on some strength, and it made it go by so much faster. Um, so I guess we don't want to keep you too long either, Bret. We're already coming up to an hour. So do you guys have any last questions for Bret? Otherwise, we can leave it with just one little thing.
Yeah, I think having a goal, especially like as a competitor in the off season, is super crucial. And like again, I've never done this in the off season, and I feel like I'm doing it the right way. I have, the right support, but even just setting PRs and things like that is so crucial. But even like for example, let's take Masa for example, and she's so strong, she's staying so lean in her off season, and she's lifting heavy. So it's like it's cool for me to see that and be around other people that are like that because Bret keeps mentioning, he's like, Sammy, like you can stay lean and get strong at the same time. Like you're actually going to build muscle the right way too. So it's interesting to like be completely opposite and go through an actual structured program.
Yeah, it's funny the bulking gets too carried away.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it have a backfire on some people where Masa was so skinny her whole life, had problem putting on weight. Then after you keep competing, especially if you compete too many times in a year or 2 year period, 3 year period, all you've been doing is competing, and then all of a sudden it can change you. It can change your appetite. Maybe it changes your appetite hormones, your hunger hormones, or something. Because
All of it.
and then you can get to where, like for me, my body weight set point used to be like 230. Now I feel like my body wants to be 250, and I have too much belly fat for my liking. But it's so hard for me to get. I wish I never. I feel like what screwed me was the 20 straight years of downing whey protein, like was going out of style because I thought the more protein the better, and I don't want to go catabolic. And now we realize that was so overrated. You don't have to drink a whey protein shake right after your workout.
Oh yeah.
You're not going to go catabolic if you go a few hours without protein. But I try to, you know, yes, bulk and cut, but you don't have to put on 40 pounds and hate the way if you hate the way that looks, you don't have to do that. You can stay leaner and still make gains.
Mm-hmm. I think that's great. Bret, this has been really, really awesome talking with you today. And so thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. This was all really, really knowledgeable information. And I think a lot of things that girls don't really hear about. So I guess like that's all.
What is one advice that you could give any competitor, Bret? Like what's a good piece of advice that you'd give them as far as like training goes or anything? Or even just maybe not even competitors, just somebody who's looking into getting physique goals or stronger.
This is not what you're going to want to hear, but I'm going to have, here's what I want to tell all the competitors. When your show ends, you need to have a month where you're all about your spouse. Competing is very selfish. You're all about you. And think of it's vain. It's pure vanity. You make your spouse's life a living hell because you're so obsessed with your looks. So you're typically not in the mood to have sex. You have no energy. You just want to sleep. You're this dead fish laying around. But you have energy to go work out, but you don't want to have sex. You have energy to go do all the other things. How fun is it to go to dinner when you bring your Tupperware with you to dinner or say, I can't go there. A normal couple likes to go to Mexican food, have the chips and salsa. If you go to the movies, you have the popcorn. If you go to the game, maybe you have a hot dog, which no fitness competitor would ever be like a hot dog. But my point is, you should live your life. You should have some fun. And you should know that if you've got a supportive spouse, if you got a spouse that supports you and is like rooting you on, then that after you finish your show, have a month where you're all about them. Balance this, keep the the score sheet even a little bit, because it's tough on these. I love these supportive spouses. I love it. I love seeing how, but I feel like a lot of competitors I've dealt with, men and women can get crazy when they diet down and they get so obsessed with their goal, and they're like, my husband's been complaining. He's I don't care. I don't care if we get a divorce. I'm like, yes, you do care. I promise you, you care. You're not thinking straight right now. Like, you're being irrational right now. Like that's the hard part when you see it overtake someone, and there's a dark side to all this. So remember to have balance. Remember to not get too consumed with your goals, and to be good to your supportive spouse, because it's not easy to date someone who is a competitor. You don't have a normal lifestyle, and that's why it's nice when both people are in fitness. But if you be good to them, and realize how much they're sacrificing to be with you.
I think that's really good advice. We did a whole podcast on relationships and competing for that reason.
Yep.
That was good. And there's like a side note. So there's one of the girls at Glute Lab, and she and her husband, so she's a competitor. It's Natalie. I don't think she'll care that I'm saying her name. But her and her husband are amazing together. So what they do is she'll compete, and he's so supportive of her competing, and then he'll have his goals. So I think he competes in CrossFit or something like that. So then they like balance. So then she's in her off season and she's supporting him with his goals. So I think that is so cool that they can like figure that out. And if you can figure that out and be a competitor, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So
balance. That's what it takes. So all righty. Well, thank you so much, Bret. We really appreciate you having on, and we will be back again in a couple of weeks with the next episode. So with that, we will talk to you guys later.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Bret.
thank you.